Hey, Sue.
Sorry, I was 3 minutes late. I was at Barracks Road and managed to get back.
No problem.
It looks like nobody else is doing it.
No, and I got an email just not too long ago from Tabia. She can't make it. I have not heard from Mary. And I think that Catherine, who is the other person on this committee, this date did not work for her. So,
Well, that's fine. I assume I just come back on at 6 o'clock, or do I keep this on?
yeah, you can just leave the same one on. Oh, there's Mary. That's good. Cool. Hi, Mary.
Hello, I'm sorry I'm running late. It was a good day.
That was me too.
It's okay. And I'll contribute my delinquency here in that only now did I realize, oh, I only did the agendas for the other two meetings yesterday, and I did not post the agendas for these two meetings. So there's my public statement for that one. I do have a draft here that I could pull up as a screen share. All it really has is a review of the previous meetings minutes and which you guys probably have from before, and new business, because I don't think we had any specific things we were going to address. But I can pull that up as a screen share. I did not, that's just complete oversight on my part. I've been completely swamped today. So if you'd like me to pull up as a screen share, I can do that.
Is our chair here?
No, Tabia emailed me earlier today and said she could not attend, and I don't believe Catherine's going to be here.
Well, that's too bad, because we lost Chantel, of course, and they were co-chairs. So,
Yep. And she also noted that she cannot serve as co-chair or chair anymore.
Oh, Via said that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to go back to the whole, right? I guess like procedurally and you know, is Catherine still? I mean, are they still both willing to be on this committee? They just couldn't make this time?
I don't know from Catherine, but I think Tabia is, based on emails from her, she's still willing to serve. She just can't commit to being the chair of the committee.
Okay. Sue, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's worth going ahead and having a meeting, or shall we just try to find it? I feel like half of us are gone.
Well, since I joined just at the last commission meeting, I didn't attend the earlier one. And I had, my own reasons for saying, yeah, I'd like to be on this committee, but I don't know what I guess there are minutes of what you did. And
I mean, I think we're kind of at this new juncture though. Like we actually had this early success in helping, along with a lot of other people, to convince the city council to put this money up for
for the
tenants and eviction proceedings. And so the question is like, I don't think we had decided on what we wanted to work on next. Is it like getting more involved in that and making sure that like the program is, laid out and working and run and they're committed to it for more than 1 year? Or is it like taking on other issues? And there's so many issues with housing in Charlottesville.
Yeah, I do think we shouldn't ignore this tenant relief issue. And it may be, I mean, I know the state is working on some stuff. And so I could see that there would be a role for this committee to at least paying attention to what's going on at the state level, and maybe what's going on in other localities, and holding council's feet to the fire to continue it. I'd hate to see that particular issue just drop off the radar.
Yeah, I agree. And I know there's been a little bit of, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, to feel like, oh, we got this thing done, but I know there are people who want to like codify it in law so that it can't just be like quietly taken away from people in another budget cycle. And there is I have a concern that because we're using this like temporary Recovery Act money, that when that money doesn't exist anymore, it would be so easy to say, well, that was like an interesting,
Yeah.
trial. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of inclined to think that we should, I hate to say this to you, Todd, and I'm happy to like take a role in trying to identify another time, but I sort of think we should just see if we could find a time next week where we could get, Tabia and Catherine, if that's possible, because
Yeah.
this is such a big issue. And like, I think what we had determined when it was 3 of us is that we actually needed more people. And now,
Now you have
now it's
me.
just 2 of us. I mean, and you're great. You're wonderful, Sue. But I'm inclined to think we should kind of suspend it and, let Todd enjoy his weekend and
Oh, yeah.
and I'm happy to send out the email, Todd, just to like save you that time if you think that makes sense, but you have something else to say. Go ahead.
So pause for a second, because we are an official publicly noticed meeting currently. We did not call it to order though, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Because
At
we
this
didn't have a
point,
chair.
Because we don't have a chair.
We don't have a chair. And I guess you by default, as chair of the commission, could call to order. So that said, next week is impossible for me because I'm technically supposed to be on vacation, which
Oh,
is
well, you
probably
should do
going to
that.
amount
Yeah.
to writing a bunch of reports. But
Do
so
you need to be at every committee meeting? Could we have a committee meeting and
Yes.
report back on it? I don't know the rules.
great
so-
question. It's a great question. I'm also sensitive to Brian because we did have him. We've got 4 hours of meetings in addition to the 2 hours of regular meeting that we're already scheduling for June. So I hesitate. He's there, but I would say, maybe what we're trying to really do is look at, establishing some standing committee meeting days. And, maybe put that on your platter. Maybe if you can bear it, maybe wait till the next full meeting and then maybe we come to a conclusion as to what those standing days might be. And then I think that'll be a lot easier to schedule.
Did anybody meet yesterday?
The community engagement committee did make it for the legal representation committee. One person made it, so we didn't make it. We didn't do any work, and we just basically called the meeting as well. So I'm really sensitive to the fact that we're going to call meetings and then not be able to follow through.
Remind me what the legal representation committee is over and above
Yep.
getting legal representation for eviction notices.
Sure.
Is it different?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It is. It's a similar thought process. I'll just give you the nutshell on that. So basically what that is when a person files a complaint with the Office of Human Rights, they file as an individual.
Oh, I got it. I remember now.
Yep. And so, yeah, it's just an attempt at thinking through the equity when a respondent probably has the means or already has legal counsel.
Yeah, I remember now.
The complainant doesn't. So, yeah. And so they have a resolution. There's a resolution that's been in a couple agenda packets for them to consider.
So
Well-
our next full meeting, I think, I need to confirm, but I believe the mayor will be coming and she indicated she would invite Chief Brackney also. So I'll circle back to her, but all of that is to say that I'm not sure we would have like a huge amount of time to deal with all of these other committees anyway. So putting it off, although it makes me a little sad, like I think I could live with it for that reason, because if we're going to have that like robust conversation with the mayor and the police chief, that's going to take up a lot of that meeting.
Yep. And I know you also, it was kind of at the tail end of the last meeting, there was also the proposal to put some focus on comp plan discussion. I don't think you're going to be able to do both the police and the comp plan in the same meeting.
Oh.
And clearly if the chief and the mayor are coming, yeah, let's focus on that.
You
And
mean you don't think we can solve all of the city's problems in a 2-hour, like?
y'all are amazing, but
Yeah, okay, fair enough, fair
Um,
enough. Okay,
and-
that's, I mean, I really want to respect the, your vacation and it, so if that, like, if it makes sense to just put that off, like, let's just do that.
yeah, it might be a good idea. So, and here's the other thing, I do have information on some stuff for you to consider for the comp plan, and I can share that with you offline. But the idea being that there are some materials that the commission probably would want to read, and then we could invite people from the planning commission as well as NDS to answer questions about the process and the plan as it exists right now. So anyway, I've got that material. I just haven't forwarded it all to you yet.
And I think that was one of the things why I was intrigued with the housing subcommittee is the issues in the comp plan around housing.
Sure.
Because that's getting a whole lot of pushback from.
Yep. The
from
affordable housing
neighborhoods
plan is
that-
one of the documents y'all probably would like to take a look at. So I have the copy of that.
You know, looking at that comp plan from a discrimination lens is something that I was intrigued with.
Yep.
So unfortunately that we can't do that today.
No. But so I guess the conclusion is we'll table this meeting. We didn't actually call it to order. This was a bit of a discussion, a public discussion.
We
You don't
could call it to order and then adjourn if that makes
then I'll have to
any,
take minutes.
okay, then let's not do that. I don't want, no.
I may still. I'm gonna have to figure out what all this is and how I document all this to meet FOIA requirements. Brian, if you're listening, I'm gonna need your help.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad that's your job, Todd, but
Yeah.
I hope you
it's-
have a wonderful vacation and we'll, I mean, we need to select a new chair and we need to, like, get our folks here to have the meeting. So that makes sense.
That would be good. I think that's, yeah, what we're experiencing is the historical challenge that the commission has faced before. When you have multiple committees, what ends up happening is it just dilutes the
Yeah.
commission and then nothing happens. So
Also, summer's really hard generally, so that's.
certainly. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Well, thanks you. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Brian, if you're listening, and all of you have a good weekend.
and
Thanks.
I'll
You
check
too.
back at 6 o'clock.
So I'll see you back at 6. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Take
Bye,
care,
folks.
y'all.
Yep.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello there.
So you have come to a meeting that was never called to order.
I have noticed that I was feeling moderately bad that I was late, but I was going to send you a Teams message saying I was talking to our city manager so you would understand. But yes, I have noticed that there are no housing humans here.
There were a couple very briefly, but the other couple were not in attendance, and so the decision was made to table the meeting. So we're gonna reconvene at 6 for the accessibility committee meeting.
I can do that.
Yep, and in the meantime, and this is my public mea culpa here, is that I thought I had posted the agendas for these two meetings. I did for yesterday's two committee meetings, but in the midst of putting out fires today, I did not post the agendas for these two meetings. So I'm going to do that real quick, so that
Okay.
those are up on the city website.
That sounds perfect.
But if you need me, I am available at my computer here. So now you know where I'm at.
That is perfectly fine. Do I need to let our comms team know that I don't know if they want to keep streaming because we're live streaming right now.
I think that's what they do, and it's no
Okay.
big deal. We'll just,
All right.
for folks at home, you have a little bit of a boring wait for the next 40 minutes. So, all right.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. See ya.
Mhm.
Hey, good evening. Is this, is the housing committee, has their meeting finished?
Hey, Wolfgang. Yes, it was never actually called to order, so you are,
Gotcha. I was
you're
just
in
coming to listen
time,
in.
we're in plenty of time for
I
the
was
accessibility.
going to listen to theirs, while I read over my own notes and got ready for our own. But,
Yeah. I
Okay.
think the commission has found itself, yeah, more busy than it was prepared to be. So there you go.
Sue and I are ready to go. I can say
You guys
that.
are ready. Just so you know, I also found myself more busy than I was prepared to be. I thought I had posted, when I was posting the agendas
Yeah,
for yesterday's meetings, I thought I had posted these, but no, I realized, oh no, I didn't get there. So I just posted them. So they're all,
great.
I don't know that you have them. The only, we talked about it.
I just looked at them, and I didn't see one for us yet, but that's,
It's up, yeah, on the
it's up
city
now.
website.
Okay.
Is that what you
Yeah.
want? Yeah,
I just looked like 3 minutes ago.
yeah, that's about,
I see an agenda for the housing folks.
scroll down, because it's all in
Ah,
one posting, I had to
I
like
keep
merge
on
all the
scrolling.
agendas, because I can only post one agenda and one agenda packet. So it was a learning experience this time. So anyway, there.
Cool.
it is.
Also realizing that my was just like broadcasted to whoever's watching right now, which,
Yeah, we're entertaining
know,
whoever's at home. Hello, everyone. at
any
home.
Zoom folks.
I guess we'll sign off until 6 or just before, and
Yeah, that's fine.
okay, good to see
See you
you.
then.
See you shortly.
Bye.
Welcome back, Sue.
Hi again.
I think you sent me a follow-up email in that conversation, but I was having several conversations at the same time.
Well, I finally did read yours, and I think you may be right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Curtis is just so annoying. There's no reason that couldn't have gone out.
Public meeting.
Well,
But I hear you. It was a little frustrating to, yeah, made it hard for people to plan.
no kidding. Even though, as I mentioned to him, I made sure that we put a save the date in.
You did.
I notified people at the meeting of the date, so.
You did.
Mhm.
So
You did
I
your due diligence.
I do think that, with the dearth of information about the meeting, it's hard to entice commissioners
Oh,
to
no kidding.
enjoy, to want to be part of it.
Were you about to use the word endure?
No, I wasn't. don't
I
know
heard
what
it
was-
in, and then you cut yourself off and you changed a different word, and I was like,
It could very well be that my very sleepy brain was thinking that, but I don't know. I can't vouch exactly for what my brain is.
Yeah.
doing these days.
Having attended the November meeting, I can say that we should attend. It's good to hear what's going on in the rest of the state.
Sure. Yep.
And
Yeah.
I would love for it to be, I don't know, more like unifying.
Yeah.
Like get some stuff done together. And I don't think it's quite the resource that it could be. But I can say that for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not the resource it could be. I've been fighting for it for, what, 5 years?
And now you've been our state advocate.
Yep. Thank
And-
you for that, Sue.
And can't seem to get, I mean, I know people are meetinged out. I mean, but then I always think there's got to be at least one or two people like me that likes to do things like that.
Mhm.
Yep. We just have so many things on the plate, I guess.
And so that's you, Wolfgang. You're
I
the lead.
know. I get the baton.
Yeah,
All right.
Oh, I'm right there
Alright.
with you. I'm right there with you. Well, 6:02. Do you all?
Let's do it.
Are you the chair of this committee, Wolfgang? I thought
I
that's the
am.
case. Okay.
Yeah. Sue abdicated that.
Great.
yes.
Well, I will turn
So
to you.
I am the chair. So yeah, I guess I'll call this meeting to order. See if we have any attendees joining us this evening, this wonderful, beautiful Friday evening.
No attendees this evening. Not even Molly.
Doesn't seem to be any attendees.
We have Ashley.
Hey, Molly. Oh,
Thank
not
you,
even
Ashley.
Ashley. Sorry, I'm still pulling up the attendees. No attendees.
Yep. No attendees.
But Ashley is joining us.
Ashley's here with
Not
us.
Molly. Okay.
Not Molly. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am so honored you're spending your Friday evening with us.
Yes.
I am honored to spend my Friday evening with you all.
Friday senior, in fact, not Friday junior.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for coming.
Well, I actually moved past some business that probably I should have done, which is I called us to order, or called to order, and I should state the people who are in attendance. So I am Wolfgang Kepley, chair of this commission, chair of the subcommittee. I want to overstate. And
Get ahead of
would,
yourself.
if you are also attending, would you state your name?
I'm Sue Lewis. I'm a member of the subcommittee.
Excellent. Sue, do we want to recite the mission?
No. No. Do we have to
I
do
will
this for
recite.
every subcommittee meeting?
Yes, it's so cheesy and wonderful. We
Oh, it is
absolutely need to continue
lovely.
it. Todd, do you want to join me?
I'll join you.
Thank you.
I don't have
Ashley,
it
feel
in
free to
front
join
of
in
me,
too.
so.
We're gonna, okay, well, I'm just gonna read it. Our mission is to act as a strong
advocate,
advocate to justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership and guidance in the area of civil rights. There we go. Now we would open up to the public, but there's no one attending.
No
So-
attendees.
Get through that, right through that. All right. So last time we met, we set minutes. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. Do we want to approve the minutes from last meeting? I had read through them about
I
a month
have
ago
them
and
in front of me, I would, so I'm trusting you.
okay. I approve the minutes.
Got it.
Great. We can move right through the work section. So the main chunk of our business was focusing on writing a language accessibility plan for the city of Charlottesville. Not necessarily to write the thing, but to write the justification for the thing. So I've done a little bit of research. I dropped that into the Box document that can be accessed by the public, if the public was here, underneath the accessibility subcommittee category. So I don't know if you added anything to that, Sue. I just wanted to put some. Okay, sounds good.
I mean, what I did was I looked at, you know, the stuff that you sent out, the various things, and I picked up a few of them that I looked at myself. So
Cool.
I'm not adding anything at the moment.
There's a lot to go over. I mean, there's legal framework for, you know, local governments receive federal funding. There's areas of the city where they have to do this, and there's areas where they don't have to do this. So I just tried to find a couple smaller cities and towns that had decided to implement a language access plan for the whole of the city. And among them, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, Rochester, New Hampshire, and Torrington, Connecticut all have language access plans.
I was most intrigued though with what goes into a access plan, like what they were calling the Title VI 4-factor analysis. And that I wonder if we have done, that's obviously where we would need to start.
Well, that's interesting because I looked through, there was a consulting project done for Charlottesville, I think in 2016, that focused on housing access. And in it, they discussed that Charlottesville should continue to do its 4-factor analysis for LEP, limited English proficient individuals. But I haven't been able to find any public facing information about what the city has done outside of the police department, which does have a language access plan. Or the school district, which also does. So it seems like individual departments have language access plans, but I hadn't seen any citywide leadership in the area. I don't know if you came across anything.
Where would we find this analysis?
The consulting project or the 4-factor analysis?
The 4-factor analysis, or any factors of the 4-factor analysis for the city of Charlottesville.
I don't know. I don't know who we would talk to about that. Todd, do you have any ideas?
Well, so you said it was in the CPD
Community
has a plan,
development.
right?
These
And
came under
It's dropping in the
CDBG, I believe.
I'm dropping it in the chat because it's a new document that I hadn't gotten to share in I found it this afternoon while I was reading. I didn't share it last night. And page 24, underneath a list of languages that are spoken in the city and the recommendations they make for which documents to provide for those language groups, it says the city of Charlottesville should continue to conduct a 4-factor analysis on an annual basis, or as census data is updated, determine the extent which the translation, sorry, there's a plane flying over. But that implies that they do it already.
Yeah.
So I don't want to reinvent the wheel, something that's already been done, but it would be good to ask, I guess, if this is already being done.
I think I'm doing something strange with my sound here. But I would think these things come under CDBG oversight, it looks like, reading all of that.
Yeah.
So who, the community development department is the one that handles CDBG, and I guess we could go to them and ask them for,
Reach out to,
how
Okay.
far into the 4 factors did they go?
so neighborhood development services.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, luckily, we already have a relationship with neighborhood development services, having, you know,
Oh,
their
through the
connections with the
ACA,
ADA
yeah.
office. Yeah. So, cool. I guess I'll just like reach out to Allison and see if they're doing this. It does still bear the question, you know, we're seeing language access plans for, you know, federal funding recipients. So
Right.
CCDBG grants, others. But do we want to advocate that the city adopt a language access plan broader than that?
Well, I mean, we have to, we have to have the data first. It strikes me that we gotta have the data that go along with the factors, and then we can see where we might be lagging. That's what I got out of reading all of this.
When you say with the data, do you mean like the percentage of
Yeah, of
LEP
how many,
individuals in the city? Okay. How many people this would impact?
how many languages are in fact being spoken in the city, or are the first language of what percentage of people? I mean, we've got a lot of different people here, and just to be concerned about one particular subgroup of language doesn't strike me as the way to go.
Well, I know, so I looked through census data from the last collection, which I think was 2016. And there's projections for 2019, but of course they're projections. And the census doesn't seem to collect information on specific countries of origin. That information is available at the state level, but not at the local level. And so the information we have available is that 13% of the city, at least in 2016, was foreign born. That language, that limited English proficient enrollment at Charlottesville City Schools was 12%, and that 14% of the population speaks a language other than English.
Yeah.
So if those numbers are still CPD plan. Looking out, I just shared. And so obviously there's that information is dated. I'd be curious to see what when the new census data is released, what we might be able to come. Yes, this is the policy that. Oh wow, Todd's finding all the things.
Bottom line, intention. If we want to write
Thanks, Ashley. Credit is due.
Language access plan, would be not necessarily for what most of the CDBG stuff is, but for communications from the city rather than access to federally funded programs. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, the purpose that I think kind of undergirds our subcommittee is the ability for citizens, all citizens, to be able to engage with the city, to advocate for their own needs.
Yeah, engage and engage via all the sorts of methods.
Yeah, and so we don't have the capacity, I believe, to provide, translation of vital documents that aren't connected to federal funding, to provide interpretation services for city council meetings. We've never done that, in my knowledge. And I don't know what it would look like for us to try that on a broader scale.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a very interesting thing for us to be looking at. I want to know where this overlaps with, um, where it overlaps with the, with Allison's office.
Hmm. Well, that would be a new question.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, there may be stuff in the ACA regs that speaks to that issue too.
Here's the thing. I mean, I think just to interject here, the key piece that, you know, Allison is in charge with, or the ADA coordinator is in charge with, is making sure that the city complies with the
Mhm.
ADA, right? And so
Yeah,
this is
it goes
above
back
and
to that
beyond.
federal
And so
compliance.
to
Yeah.
expect the ADA coordinator to take that on is probably a little bit excessive, right? I think what you're advocating for is awesome, but I think it probably requires a different person with a different set of focus and skills to take care of that, because I think Allison's got all she can do to make sure that the sidewalks have ramps and that, you know, you don't trip over the manhole covers and so forth. So I think that is a kind of a key thing to keep in mind, is that Allison's got an important job. We may be talking about something that's in addition to what she does.
And I think that's pretty much what I was trying to say, that, you know, if I knew there was nothing in the ADA that spoke to this sort of accessibility, fine, we could, you know, forge ahead. But if there is something in the ADA, even a little teeny tiny paragraph that mentions something like that, we should at least know what that is. And then
If I
we
can
could,
provide any assistance from my old life in
Yes,
nonprofits.
please.
So
Yes,
when we
please.
had to create a language access plan at the YWCA, it was because we received federal funding for our domestic violence programming.
Mhm,
And it is to adhere to the Office of Civil Rights, not ADA.
mhm,
And we received that due to the specific pots of funding that we were granted from, which is VAWA and VOCA, Violence Against Women Act, Victims of Crime Act. So I do know that when I had to complete a community block grant, CARES Based Act, it did not ask me if I had a LEP policy.
mm,
And so if you look even, I pulled, for example, Fairfax's, it is grounded in the Office of Civil Rights and again in transportation. So what I've been finding is that oftentimes the language access policies lies in schools, which would be getting federal funding,
Mhm.
transportation, which is probably getting federal funding, and maybe in the police department as well. That doesn't mean that a locality couldn't have one. But it would not be ADA, it would be civil rights, and I'm about to give myself more work. That means it falls under me. But remember, I've been here 4 weeks,
Yeah.
so I don't have one yet.
well, I mean, I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to say. If it falls under Office for Civil Rights, we're the closest thing to it that the city has. I mean, the city does not have an entity called the Office of Civil Rights. We are the Human Rights Commission is what we are. They don't use the word civil. So we're the closest thing. So I see it entirely within our purview to forge ahead.
Now, what I will tell you, Sue, is that there is an element of Title II in the ADA that does talk about accessibility, but they are generally referring to making sure that individuals with disabilities have accessibility to printed material. So we're talking about auxiliary hearing aids,
Yeah.
signs in Braille, signs in bigger font. So they aren't necessarily talking about individuals who have limited English proficiency, but individuals who need additional assistance to understand, be able to see, be able to read English, but not necessarily because they are not non-native English speakers. So there is an element of language in there, but not the way I believe we're talking about it.
Right. That's very helpful.
I'm just thinking.
Oh, good.
Just a-
Everything is always more complex.
A curious point, the mission of the Human Rights Commission, it states that you're providing citywide leadership in the area of civil rights. It doesn't actually
I
say
know.
human rights, which is
Mhm.
an
Mhm.
interesting conundrum. And I think maybe that's because, well, obviously we're the state human rights laws are derived from the sort of federal civil rights laws.
Yeah.
I don't think there are federal human rights laws. So you have this dichotomy of terms, but they're basically covering the same thing. So it's just an interesting point to note that, really what we are talking about is, this global idea of equity, right? And that's why, it's an important discussion, especially with Ashley here now, because here we have this open discussion about what is the Office of Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. What is that? And then how does that overlap with human rights and civil rights? Because obviously it does. So I think it's a great discussion to be having.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, and going beyond, what is like legally required by federal funding recipients, does give us flexibility to just sort of move the needle from absolutely nothing to just something. And I think we could discuss some things that are already being done. This
Yeah.
police department doesn't have to have like those I speak X, Y, and Z language cards, but they've added them to the language access plan. Todd doesn't have to translate some of the Office of Human Rights documents into different languages, but he does. And so I guess it would be good to know how those additional, more flexible policy options are being used, how they're being received, if people feel like they're useful. I don't know, Todd, if you've gotten any comments or people who have used the documents that you translated.
No one's ever given me direct feedback on them, but it is nice to be able to. You get the when you do pass them to somebody who speaks that language, they're like, oh, great, you actually have this.
And that's happened before. You have passed a document that you've translated to somebody who spoke that language as their primary language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially in Spanish. Like I've tabled at Southwood, right? So I'm in the rental office. Every time somebody comes in the door, I say, hey, how you doing? And obviously in Spanish, and pass them a brochure if they'd like one. Same idea with door-to-door outreach, especially in public housing and Friendship Court. There's a significant number of people who speak. What is it? I think we had the Human Rights, Office of Human Rights brochure translated into Dari, right? And so there's a number of Dari speakers at Friendship Court, for example. And so we were able to share that, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, the City of Charlottesville LEP determination from the consulting project that I dropped in the chat mentions Spanish, Chinese, Dari, Farsi, Pashto, Urdu, Arabic, Nepali, Swahili, Spanish, and Spanish again. That's the second category of things. And that's a lot of languages.
I can tell you all, this is something that is, if it is helpful at all and gives you any comfort, it is something that is certainly on my radar of things that we may need to investigate, what accessibility needs to be provided to ensure that any citizen feels comfortable and confident contracting business with the city. It's something that I think is important. It is a part of my job. And so it is certainly something, please know, that I'm looking at, but I would love any input or data or just honestly backup that you all could provide. But it is something where, for example, I know I do not speak Spanish because I took French because it sounds pretty. That's what high school me thought about.
I feel that.
Which I've
Me
literally
too.
used it once. I've used it once. But I think that I want to make sure I'm accessible as well. So please know this is something that's on my radar. I don't quite know how best to tackle it. because
Yeah.
cities have lots of departments. Do you have, I know that the police department may need something very different, and they may also partner with other police departments. As a former magistrate, we had something called Language Line from the state,
Yeah.
which was generally okay, but there were definitely times where I out translated the Spanish, which is then problematic. Again, I speak French. And so there are, I know, some individuals who may have some more easily accessible routes to providing excellent service. But it certainly is something that I think is important to me, especially when we move from Romance languages that you might be able to muddle through to other languages where you really need to know the nuance and how it is spoken to be able to be effective and of service, honestly.
One point too, I may have mentioned this earlier, but not in this meeting. I kind of asked around in human resources if anyone had a list of employees that spoke languages other than English, and
Yeah. Great.
no one was aware of anything. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist somewhere, but my sense is that it may not exist. And the way things get passed around when somebody calls in speaking a different language, at least with the Spanish callers, if somebody knows that I speak it, it usually gets transferred over to me, like if it's a utility question or whatever happens to be. So there is sort of an informal network of people who speak different languages, but I almost wonder if, an initial baby step could be like an all employee email that says, hey, we're looking for within our team people who speak other languages because we're trying to
Yeah.
identify who does and kind of cross pollinate our departments to address issues when they come up, because they know it's frustrating for somebody
Right.
who tries to call the utility billing office and they only speak Spanish, and they're like, I'm trying to figure out this issue, and they're very relieved when after a couple of transfers they get somebody who can speak and understand what they're saying. So
Just to be able to even triage to direct the person in the right direction.
exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I'm taking some notes. So 2 lines of thinking right off the bat. I mean, one, we're talking about access to the city and like advocating for oneself. If we keep this like smaller, do you think it might be feasible to send an email out to all city employees and and also broader to like try to keep it, make a list of people who speak various languages who would be willing to be called upon with enough advance notice to show up to a city council meeting and interpret for a person? Like a once every 2 weeks kind of like ad hoc maybe commitment that we could be able to offer that.
I will say that live interpretation is a very, very specialized skill. So nobody's going to do that sort of like, hey, ad hoc and like off the cuff. Like I've tried that for people before.
Well,
My skills
do you mean simultaneous interpretation or?
Yeah, simultaneous
Live, okay.
interpretation is really, really hard. Yeah.
And I'm not meaning simultaneous interpretation, or do you mean, sentence by sentence interpretation, or either one is too difficult?
Either one is too difficult because the English speakers usually don't give you a nice pause where you can translate and then say, okay, continue. Yeah, so you're looking for a really specialized skill when you talk about live translation of a city council meeting. Whereas answering a phone call, I can handle that. So just to sort of distinguish, like you may want to think about what is the scope of what you're asking people to try to do.
Okay.
And if it helps at all,
Yeah.
again,
Because having
nonprofit me. What we ended up doing at the YWCA is contracting with a company. And that company would have individuals who have been trained. So for example, medical translation is completely different. Mental health medical translation, completely different from just medical translation, because they have to be able to exactly convey what the person says and not at all change it, because you all know that one word in mental health could help a therapist know what's really going on. So that is a super specialized skill. And so there are companies that do provide that. The question would be the efficacy of it, if it is something that we would be able to implement, and if it's something that I can talk someone off some dollars for. Now granted, most of those companies work
I mean,
in a way
that-
where you do not,
That's,
yeah, I know, yeah. Most
I mean,
companies, however,
I was asking it in a way so
Mhm.
to already circumvent the idea that like no one is going to pay for this. Probably not, unless we can provide
no
it.
one will.
Unless you can pull some strings, we can pull some strings, we get community support, we go to bat for this thing, like, and it would just be city council meetings. At like that's the smallest vision that I would have for this. And then to be what I feel would be most useful for people would be to offer it as people are trying to navigate billing services, utilities, the broader, probably most functional. And I would love for the city to want to fund that kind of access, but I don't feel like it's feasible. And so my initial thought was just trying to say like, hey, if we do this in a way that literally doesn't cost the city any money, can we indicate that it is a service that's being used? Therefore, we have the foundation for building off of that.
I would tell you to ask me for what you want.
Okay.
And then if I can't bring it to you, I'll tell you why I can't. But ask me for what you want.
All right. Hello. And jumped in. Sweet. Yeah, I mean, the beauty of being part of the Charlottesville community is that we can plug into, and we also have in-house interpretation services of International Rescue Committee right across the hall from, right across the street from City Hall. And you talk about niche specializations, but I also know that the interpretation services there are certified and thoroughly vetted, maybe not for specifically city council meetings, but certainly there's a level of, I guess, quality control that would ensure efficacy. Whether, as you said before, don't know if you get that kind of quality with the language line. So, and like we said, I don't know. Do we think that starting with city council meetings is a good place to start? Do we want to go somewhere else? I had just thrown that out there as an idea, but open to input.
What would you be asking? What would you ask me for city council? Why am I having this horrible sound? It wasn't doing it earlier.
I don't hear anything. I'll mute myself if that makes it easier.
No, my question is what is it we want to ask city council for at this point?
Oh, that was my question. My idea was to ask that they provide language interpretation services upon request for city council meetings and to see if anybody uses it.
Yeah, that would, reading what I am attempting to read and understand about the LAP, that's part of the issue in coming up with it's one of the factors. How often is there a need for this? How many people are actually not able to understand what's going on in a city council meeting? And that's where all that data that I'm a data-driven person, actually. I like numbers. So I'd hate to ask them to do something if there isn't a need beyond one or two people. Do you know where I'm going?
I think that could be the beauty of the language line, is that depending on which service you're using, you pay for it ad hoc. You pay for it as you use it. And so if no one uses it, it may not cost the city anything.
However, it's got to
We'd have
be
to compare
available.
language line services. I mean, there's a lot of different options out there. Yeah, it's,
I'm still trying to wrap my head around some of these issues.
and I guess I said my initial idea was city council. Ashley, if you're challenging me to think a little broader, it would be that we offer Spanish interpretation for like anyone calling in for city services. I don't know much about that, but I feel like that would be the best place to start.
I can tell you that does not sound like an unreasonable request for your team to investigate for you. That's a question I have myself. Is that something that departments would like to have available to them if possible? And is that something that would be supportive of our community members who may feel more comfortable and confident hearing whatever they need to hear about their taxes or whatever it is in their native tongue?
Yeah. And I guess that was another question I had for you is you said that one thing that would support your work would be the data. And I was asking what data would be helpful for you to know?
Well,
What pieces of information are
I'm
missing?
somewhat of a literal
Oh,
person.
and it's Ashley.
Oh. Ashley.
So I think we're a lot alike though. So for me, my question would be, just to give an example, I come from Roanoke, which is another welcoming city. And so we have quite a lot of languages that are spoken. And through working with Commonwealth Catholic Charities and some of our other nonprofits, we're able to know a little bit more detail about who is coming to become our neighbors, so that we would know a little bit more about who we may need to be able to provide quality assistance with. For example, back when I ran a mental health free clinic. So that is part of why we went with a particular company. It's the same company I actually happen to use at the YW, because I knew that they covered those languages. And so it is possible that perhaps by reaching out into our nonprofit community, we may be able to find out a little bit more about the consumers that they serve, who maybe, because I know, so for example, and Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to use Spanish. Oftentimes individuals really work within their own community. So perhaps if someone has a document they don't understand, they can take it to someone at their faith community or someone down the street. So we may never know that they needed that translation simply because they have this ability to go ask someone else, whether that someone else is a neighbor, a pastor, or honestly, oftentimes their child. So it might be helpful if we could maybe dive in with our community partners to find out what they're seeing, because we simply just might not ever see a great number of those individuals again, because they work so well within their community to provide assistance to each other. That's absolutely not a bad thing, but it's bad for collecting data.
Yeah.
It's also bad from a, you know, the amount of effort that someone with limited English proficiency might have to commit to just navigating a system in a way that someone who is proficient in English doesn't have to. And when it comes down to, you know, engaging with the city for advocacy concerns, then that's an additional barrier we don't need to put up if we're trying to make the city, you know, this engagement process actually serve everybody. So it's bad for collecting data, but it's also something that we could, yeah. I'll stop talking. Todd, you were saying something?
Well, I was just thinking, you know, as Ashley was saying, tapping into some of the other partners in the community, you know, talking to IRC to get numbers of people resettled here in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
you would get a pretty good sense of what languages are majority spoken, at least from the refugee standpoint. From the Spanish speaker standpoint, I would probably reach out to Sin Barreras, because they are probably the place that people are going to when they have a question, right? That they can't get answered, you know, if they're only a Spanish speaker. So, you know, like part of what you don't know is, you know, people may have given up on trying to access resources and found another pathway because the wall was too high to climb, right? You look at if you, maybe you're able to get on the internet and somebody, you can type Charlottesville and then you get to the Charlottesville website, but if it's all in English, it stops there, right? And so then you just maybe go somewhere else. And I haven't looked at, I should take a closer look at bills. Like, I don't know if what our city bills say about language or anything like that. So it might be a good idea to kind of get a sense of where we're at on that before we go too far. So.
Mhm.
I've got a couple connections at International Rescue Committee I'm happy to hit up.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do. So, and happy to reach out to Sin Barreras as well. It also seems like we should reach out to Neighborhood Development Services and see what that 4-factor analysis that's mentioned, that consulting
Right.
project, what that is, how often that's done, what are the results of it, and what Neighborhood Development Services done. Oh, it's a dog barking.
I was going to tell you that until they stopped, I'd been volunteering at the naturalization ceremonies. And in 2018 and 19, and until we stopped having them, there was an inordinate number of people from Bhutan that were coming to this area. And what I was doing was help them get registered to vote. And it was just amazing how many came from Bhutan. Well, obviously they had to have some English proficiency in order to get through the naturalization system. But I think it probably didn't lend itself to some other things. But I am intrigued with how we can further participation, or as you said, Wolfgang, engaging with our government for people with limited English proficiency. I mean, that's the bottom line here.
Right. And we also have like a wonderful refugee and SIV community in our city. And people will move here without English proficiency.
Yeah,
But they still deserve an opportunity to engage and advocate for themselves within the city. And so I feel like we need to be providing this so that they don't have to wait 5 years until naturalization services and English proficiency is improved to be able to attend a city council meeting if they want to.
right,
Everyone deserves the opportunity to sit through a 6-hour meeting
right,
where, if they want
Absolutely.
to have their voice heard.
right.
So, and beyond that, to, if you need to call the city and go through a directory and actually, try to pay your water bill, that probably is more useful.
I'm gonna call you Wolfgang if the next meeting lasts 6 hours. Because you did
It
it.
might. The shortest one I've ever attended was 2.5, and everybody was stunned at the end because they were like, "Is this really it? Are we really wrapping up at like 8:39? What?
Yep.
Crazy, crazy." But I like attending them because I'm a dork, and I'm, it's Friday night. We're all here.
Indeed. What does that say?
Right. So, okay, in our last 15 minutes, I want to figure out what really in our last, I feel like we should try to wrap up this part of our agenda. What do we want to do going forward? It feels like we have a lot of outreach that started, outreach to Sin Barreras, outreach to IRC, kind of the technical aspect of IRC's work, like what would they be able to provide in terms of city council meeting interpretation, how much advance notice, what kind of language line did they use? Money is important, as well as reaching out to some sort of internal inside the city, both how Neighborhood Development Services has conducted their DOJ 4-factor analysis. And then I'm also curious for the departments that have implemented a language access plan, how that's worked, how it's been received, where have there been choke points or growing pains. So those 4 things are the substantive action steps that come to mind. Do we want to throw anything else in there?
No, it sounds exactly what we need to be doing.
Actually, Todd?
That sounds good. Yep.
I'm I do have some connection to neighborhood development. If she's still, I don't know. What is Missy doing these days over there?
She's still in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a history with Missy when I was on the planning commission, and I'm always enjoyed talking to her. She's smart lady.
Sweet. So we'll follow up with
Yeah, I'd like to talk to them about, I'd be asking her, how many requests do they ever get? How many problems when somebody calls into NDS do they have vis-a-vis language issues?
Yeah, that would be great.
That's the sort of thing I would be asking her.
Yes, and in addition, if they are the holders of CCDBG grant, I believe,
Yeah,
then the
yes,
consulting
yes.
project that I read that said the city does a 4-factor analysis, it would probably be done by neighborhood development services.
Absolutely.
So I guess ask them what they know about that.
I plan to do that too, yeah.
Great. And then as we are reaching out to departments in the city that do have language access plan, asking them how it's going. If they receive feedback from citizens. Are they able to provide materials that are translated? Do they seem to be useful? If there's any level of feedback that they request or get, that would be helpful. I can reach out to IRC. Got my people
Yes.
there. Todd, you have seen Barrera's contacts?
Oh, Todd is.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We can talk offline. And then CPD, I'm happy to reach out to them too. I feel like we as the Human Rights Commission have been trying to establish a relationship with CPD, create ongoing conversations, and this might be a good way to start because
I'd love to know what they're doing in that
yeah,
area.
it seems like they're doing some good stuff. So I'd like to know more about it. Cool.
Okay.
Anything else for language?
No, I'm still, of course, always interested in the hearing impaired vis-a-vis what's going on at council meetings. I want to know how that's being handled and is it an issue? You never know if it's an issue unless somebody calls in and complains. But you can avoid issues by providing things. And then there is no issue. So I really don't know, Todd, what they're doing. I saw something when I signed into the Zoom, something about hearing impaired. What did I see? I'd have to sign out and sign back in.
So we currently have live transcription that's enabled. So individuals will be able to see translation live as we speak.
Okay. It comes across on a screen, or is it underneath, or how is it done?
You should be seeing it on the Zoom screen right now. I'm seeing it at least.
Well, it says the custom live streaming service. Oh, well, no, it doesn't say that. I don't see anything on my screen.
Oh, okay.
If you click the little caret
live
beside
transcript with the CC.
Yeah.
Show subtitle, view full transcript, or subtitle settings. Cool. Okay, so I think.
I'm glad to hear that the city is intending.
That, making sure that everybody's aware that that's available. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think we have an opportunity with the city deciding officially to do a hybrid approach where the commissioners have to be back in person. We can't attend on Zoom, but the meetings will be sent out. So people will be able to access live captioning.
Yeah, cool.
You have any other thoughts about that, Sue? I have, I think, one or two items of new business that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move this into that next section then. It might just be one item. So no, two items. So we need to follow up with the ADA committee about Human Rights Commission's role in potentially serving on the ADA
Yes.
commission that informs the transition plan. I followed up with Allison this week and she's checking with the powers that be. She hasn't heard anything about it. So I just wanted to update y'all and the community broader that we're still talking about it. We don't have any updates. And that kind of bears question. So one of the vital roles of the Human Rights Commission being on that is that we had a director who was serving as like a pivotal role, bridging the Human Rights Commission and the ADA Commission.
Yep.
And I don't know if we have any updates on the hiring process for that person, because I feel strange being like, we want to be on this and the future director, but we don't have the future director.
Oops. You just got
Moving.
frozen.
Todd seems to be frozen.
I missed a lot of what you said at the end because you got frozen.
Wolfgang, me was frozen or Todd was frozen?
You were frozen.
Sorry, it's pollen clutching my throat. I was asking Todd if there's an update on the hiring process for the Human Rights Director, because if we're pushing forward for the Human Rights Commission on the ADA Commission, the director is a part of that.
Mhm.
And that is more of an Ashley question than a question for me, perhaps. Yeah.
So we are in the process of reviewing the applications that have come in. We have not set a panel yet, because as I'm sure you all have seen, there is a lot of hiring that is going on. So there's a whole bunch of people that we would want on this panel that are serving on other panels right now. What I would say though is, remember, you all do have me. And so if I can be of assistance working between bridging you all and the ADA, and it's part of my job. So if that's something you all would like to continue to act on, just throw me in the fire. That is what I'm here to do. And
Would you be
then
interested
you
in
can always defer
serving
back to your
on the
director
ADA Commission?
once they're hired. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, there's lagging. I'm also dying. Would you be interested in serving on the ADA Commission? And we don't have an invitation yet, but if we are gunning for the Human Rights Commission presence, would you be interested in being a part of that, or more brokering the relationship between us?
I would assume that somewhere in the ADA, when they're talking about the committee that meets on a, I mean, it met on a regular basis and had X number of people on it coming from this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that. Somewhere there's some guidelines for who's on that. And we felt and managed to get through that somebody from the Human Rights Commission should be on it, since part of our area is disabilities.
Right. No, I was asking Ashley if she is interested, has the time, resources to want to be the person who serves on that.
I think the
Or
conflict is, I
if she
don't
sees her
know.
role more as a brokering.
Well, I thought
hope-
Ashley was.
I hope you stop dying, Wolfgang. Lots of water. I believe I got the gist of your question though. I would say the complexity is because it is a city committee, I don't think I can serve as a committee member. I can be ex officio as I am with you all.
Right.
I can represent your voice, but probably not vote. And so I think the key, and I agree with Sue, as I'm looking at the committee sheet on the website is what I'm going to call it. There is, I would have to probably go in the code to see the parameters of who is appointed on that
It used to be in city employees, mostly city employees, and we as community members would have
Right.
actually been an anomaly. And so I think that your presence on the commission would be pretty par for the course. It's more just asking if you wanted to be involved.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I believe that that's part of my role when I talk
I
about,
think so.
I
Okay.
do have racial equity that comes first, but there's also diversity and inclusion. So that's my, neurodiverse brothers and sisters, my differently abled brothers and sisters, my LGBTQIA brothers and sisters. Happy Pride Month.
Yeah. Happy Pride.
And so it fits into my role if they are meeting and I can be of service. I see that now that it's various city departments and persons
Yeah.
with disabilities. So I don't know if they have enough city department people and they need to make sure there's community space. Either way,
Okay.
I'm happy to sit and butt in.
Yeah, I mean,
Great.
as I remember it was in fact a combination of employees from the various departments that would be logical. And it was also public people, particularly those who were advocates for particular aspects of the ADA.
Yeah. So we are not the keepers of this commission.
No.
That's Allison, that's Missy.
Too bad.
I just wanted to know in my conversations with Allison going forward, if it was okay with you, Ashley, if I throw your name in the mix. But also Ashley is interested in being on this commission in the absence of a human rights director or in addition to the human rights director. So cool, I will start name dropping. Second order of business, I'm still dying. I think it's the pollen that's coming in my window. Second order of business is that we've been invited to take a tour of Jaunt with Allison.
Mhm.
And we're having an issue scheduling it. Sue, do you want to attend in my stead? And maybe we can have like a second discussion about what the questions you want to ask Jaunt.
Yeah, I would like to know what we want to ask John, first of all, but if they're going to schedule it during the day when you're not available,
Yeah, I got work.
I don't mind
Okay,
doing that.
great. Then I think we'll probably have to have a second conversation about
Okay,
what we want to ask from them. And yeah, we can have that at another time.
but I would like to know what it is we're going to talk about with them.
Oh.
Wolfgang, you keep getting frozen for some reason.
I will, I guess. Blame it on Xfinity. I will.
That's
since,
why I
my
have
voice is just
pain.
dying, and I feel like we've covered most of our business today.
Yeah.
I will open it up to our attendees for public comment. There is no one there, and so I will close out public comment. I think we're ready to adjourn. Does anybody have any last thoughts, comments, feelings, dreams, aspirations?
Here's a question. Is
Yeah.
the expectation that I will type your minutes, or did one of you want to do that and then you submit your draft and I put it on all the fancy letterhead and then do all the posting and all that stuff? Either
I'm
way
happy
is
to-
fine. I'm just asking.
I can type them up. It should be fairly straightforward. Question for you though is that in my taking notes before, I would download the transcription and go off of that.
Mhm.
Is it possible to send me that?
I have heard that it is possible. I heard Brian talk about that yesterday. I've never figured out how to do it. Maybe you should right click on it or something. I don't actually know.
There's a thing that says save transcript.
Is
Okay,
there?
I'll just view full.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where do you
Hey,
find that?
Todd.
Yeah. Hey, Brian.
Hey, yeah, definitely save the transcript right now because
Okay.
you won't have access to it after the meeting.
I
Okay.
just clicked
Sounds good.
save.
I already saved it, so I have it. It's in a rudimentary form, but it works. I can use it.
Yeah,
Someone would love to teach me how to do that at some point. I don't.
well, down there on the live transcript, if you click on that, when it says show and substitute. I clicked on show transcript and that at the bottom of that, it said a thing that to save it.
Great.
Okay.
I will
Oh,
get
I
that to
see.
you, Todd.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
That's really cool.
I'm glad to discover this little thing.
Yeah. Live captioning is awesome. For so many
Yeah.
reasons. So many reasons. Go team.
Yep.
All right. With that, I will let everyone go, I guess. Enjoy your Friday evening.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Sue.
Good seeing
good
you all.
night.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Brian.